are absolutely thrilled to have the panel today. My name is Tammy Soares. I'm the president of Launch by NTTDATA. Short introduction about NTTDATA in case you're not familiar with us. We're the world's only global full-stack SI company with services ranging from systems integration to data centers. We actually host over 40% of the world's internet traffic. World-class data and AI capabilities all the way to consulting, as well as product and service design and product innovation, which I am fortunate enough to lead at NTTDATA. So 25 years or more I've been in this field, really at that intersection of human benefit and technology. And I have to say, it's absolutely unbelievable, the advancement that we're all witnessing around us. It's absolutely incredible. I just flew in from Seattle, and at the Seattle airport, they're testing autonomous wheelchairs. There are no people in them, so they're still testing them out to see how they're working. I think it'll be really interesting to see the adoption. I'm not sure my mom is gonna pile into that wheelchair with no one pushing it, but we'll see where that goes. But it's absolutely a wild time. For today's discussion, we're actually gonna look at the latest trends in that rapid advancement of technology. No big surprise, really focusing around generative AI. And we're gonna look at its diverse applications in automotive manufacturing. And our panel today is really gonna talk about what they're seeing in that space, as well as in the enterprise operations around automotive. So that's what we're gonna talk about today. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce my panel. I have, first of all, please join me in welcoming a true visionary in the field of information and technology, Singh. With over 26 years of experience in digital technology and operations leadership, Raj has been a driving force behind the growth and transformation of prestigious Fortune companies like Ally, DTE, Ford Motor Company, and IBM. He's currently the CIO of Visteon, a global technology leader at the forefront of driving digitalization and electrification trends in the mobility industry.
Thank you.
I'm also happy to have a colleague of mine. We were just on stage last week together, actually, Angela Evans. She's a remarkable leader in the field of business and technology solutions with an impressive career spanning global enterprises to nimble startups. Angela has consistently demonstrated her ability to scale and transform companies through strategic innovation and agile delivery. She's a result-oriented senior consulting executive at NTTDATA in our data and AI practice.
Thanks, Tammy.
And finally, we have Ajit Kohe, a distinguished leader in the automotive industry and the worldwide partner leader for automotive at Amazon Web Services. I think it's the first time I've seen that spelled out in a while, AWS. With a robust educational background in mechanical engineering and nearly 3 decades of industry experience, Ajit stands as a dynamic transformation leader renowned for his strategic insights and innovative approaches. So wow, this is gonna be an amazing panel with all of your backgrounds.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. So with IDC predicting that 85% of business will combine human expertise with AI by 2026, and McKinsey's actually predicting that AI is going to transform the automotive industry and generate an additional $300 billion to $400 billion annually in 2035. So I don't think McKinsey thinks it's a hype cycle. Raj, I want to start with you. What do you see as the most impactful use cases of generative AI, specifically in automotive manufacturing, and for today, and which of these applications do you think will shape the future of the industry?
Thanks, Tammy. Great question, and glad to be here. I think for me, it looks like a complete full circle. If I'm not mistaken, almost 9-10 years back, I was one of the panelists somewhere here for a CIO conference. And there I talked about data being the new oil, and digitization is how you can extract it. The GenAI is nothing but a perfect combination of those two coming at the best, right? If you look at the history of GenAI, again, the data, and I think it was so enlightening to hear all those panelists talk about data just before this, right? Mm-hmm. I still feel we as an automotive, centric companies, we're still trying to scratch the surface and trying to figure out exactly where we're gonna go. If I step back and look at our day-to-day operation, when I walk into my office, I serve my engineering department, who do engineering activities day in, day out. I'm sure folks know here. What are the opportunities there? I'm talking to my business partners, VP of engineering, and we're talking about how can we optimize the software. We have something called engineering BOM. We have manufacturing BOM. Actually, AI and GenAI is working to optimize those two together. Who would have thought we'll use technology to do that, right? Walking into my manufacturing facility, we have hundreds and thousands of people manufacturing parts. I mean, we are very high tech, at least Visteon considered very high tech ourselves. So we have very minimal human interaction, but still with whatever interaction we have, still we have product error, product issues, we are missing stuff on the software. We actually are install a camera and we are trying to generate image out of that and create a pattern to see if any error in the manufacturing process in future, we can actually flash something red. That means we'll stop the job right then and there. That will help you reduce the waste. That will help you reduce, so much of, throwaway activities. So in my view, what I tell proudly, at least my leadership, I said, look, you should always start with a small value chain because 80% of the value is going to come from 20% of the use cases. And we at Visteon have started to look at GenAI as no more a threat or a technology differentiator, but this is something becomes integral part of our day-to-day job, right? So talking from my HR partners to finance partners to manufacturing to engineering, every single one of them today want to have a conversation with me and my team about the GenAI. So I think this is a technology which is still evolving, and there's still a long way to go, in my opinion. So.
And if you look at it from a generative AI perspective and from our vantage point, we get to work with really great partners and customers in this space. You can break it down if you look at it outside an analyst view around the same topic of which are the areas which are going to have a large return on investment for our customers. The main focus, it starts off with essentially what we call as digital customer experience, which is essentially sales and marketing. How can you create images? How can you accelerate the hyper-personalization all the way from prospecting to loyalty and everything in between with generative AI? So that's an area that we are laser focused on, working with our customers and partners on. Secondly, just like Raj mentioned, we looking at operations, right? How do you optimize operations? And you look at the entire life cycle from an automotive perspective, whether you're talking about the line performance, you're looking at the OE metrics, et cetera. But how can you truly get predictive, right? We've talked about predictive for the last two decades, but now you can actually have an AI agent tap on your door and say, here's what you can do, and by the way, here's a proven way of getting it done, right? So we're getting there right now. And the third area, which is most fascinating given my engineering background, is around engineering, and it is not just product engineering and doing high-performance compute on demand, but really looking at generative design to see what have you actually designed for, what you have engineered for, can you actually produce it, and be able to then clearly articulate the value chain effectively. I think these are the three main buckets that we are seeing a lot of traction with our voice of customer from our customers' perspective, and also working with our partner organizations.
Yeah, and speaking of voice of customer, on the panel before, there was a panelist talking about capturing all that data. And if you look at some of the things that you're seeing happen in the market, especially around being inside the vehicle, the amount of data that we're capturing is absolutely incredible. So the hyper-personalization that's actually very contextual, what's happening around you, is awesome. And it sort of reminds me of, when I was a little girl, I always wanted to own Kit, from Knight Rider, dating myself. But it feels like Kit's like right around the corner, actually. Angela, do you want to talk a little bit about just from an enterprise, from an operations perspective, like really integrating generative AI into the organization itself?
Yeah. And so it's just from an integration of it, I think, Raj, to your point earlier around working with all of your business partners in different parts of the organization, the world's ripe with opportunities for AI, and so it's easy to kind of, and we saw this over the last 18 to 24 months. Everybody kind of jumping in, and it is all right. What are those use cases we can go after? What are those proofs of concepts? And now things are becoming really real, and there's cost associated with that, right? And so when we think about it, we take a step back and say, okay, do we have, look at the value for those cases? And in automotive, it's especially across the whole value chain from your R&D all the way through to that customer experience, and look at the value that it's driving and determine that. And then also from all right, what is it going to take to deliver that? Do I have the data foundation that I need? I think the panel before they were discussing, just the importance of having that data and the sheer amount of volumes. And so do you have that data at hand, and you have the governance to go with it, and the mechanisms and the infrastructure to be able to support that? And sometimes you have to kind of slow down and take a step back and say, okay, let's take the time to invest there before we can take that step to the next big thing. And then there's obviously the personal aspect of it, or the human experience aspect of it, whether it's for employees, whether it's employees working on the shop floor or within any of the other departments, or your end user experience. And so factoring all of that in is such a key element of figuring out kind of that path forward from an AI and generative AI perspective. And just making that into the daily activities of your team, but also creating those new experiences.
So in my opinion, my suggestion to my partners and fellows is, don't just chase this as chasing the shiny objects,
Yeah.
right? I mean, typically people fall for that, and I have seen this in my own organization. My sincere advice to my folks is, if you're not solving a business problem, if you're not creating a business value, you're wasting your time, right? So how do you bring the business in the front and center of everything you do, right? And it's not easy, especially for the CIO's role. There's numerous occasions I'll tell you, we generate a lot of codes, like Visteon. We have hundreds and thousands of software developers and engineers. How can I help my engineering or those software developers become more efficient? I mean, that's a basic right necessity. And so what we do is, what we already did was took a very small use case and said, can the GenAI or the AI help me become more efficient, or help me write the code? The premise that the GenAI will completely replace all the I mean, I don't believe that, in my opinion. I think this will help us become more efficient, more effective, and it will help us short circuit some of this life cycle, right? What took us about 4 months to develop probably will take us 2 months to develop. That means we are becoming more efficient, right? More effective. But if you look at the use cases, starting from software optimization, for automotive business, I'm sure you folks know, there are a lot of compliance we have to go through. The software has to be in certain compliance. I'm not sure you heard that. We call MESHA compliance, and there's a series of compliance. GenAI is a perfect tool for that, right? You can train the model in a way that it can pick up the code, come and validate it, right? Testing your software, testing your product, right? It's what I call the low-hanging fruit, easy, non-invasive, non-destructive, right? So it's the most important message is staying focused on the business outcome, because it's very easy for people to go and start chasing the shiny object and try to become a hero, which in truth doesn't work for an organization like us.
So I want to dig in a little bit more on the efficiency angle and the fear side of it as well, because we recently are working with a client where we were doing some UAT, or we needed them to do UAT, but the very people who felt like they were going to be replaced by it were not wanting to do the testing. So how do you think about that? Or that's a big human component of this. We see a lot of buzz around it replacing people, and I heard you say you don't believe that it will. I agree with you. How do you bring people along?
I think it's a matter of communicating and collaborating with the same people, and at least my style is I actually make them part of the journey. Mm-hmm. The same people who are worried about their job or getting replaced, they actually become the custodian and the champion of taking this forward, right? I have somebody in the software working with us, making sure that software can get compliance with those automotive compliance. I have somebody from the testing team working with us, making sure that we develop some of those automatic, what I call the use case creation and scenarios. We're also looking at the automotive, the spice, as you know, right? The whole cycle, the V, what we call it, right? Quite often what happens is a requirement we get from our customer and the product we deliver is not 100% exact same. Well, that's a classic example for something like AI and GenAI to pick it up and keep us honest at every junction of the V, right? So there are so many low-hanging fruits in my opinion. And again, I'm gonna repeat, I don't believe this is gonna replace every single job. I think it will make us more effective, it will make us more efficient, and it will make us more innovative. I'm gonna look back, we started talking about big data almost like 20, 25, 30 years back, right? It hasn't replaced anyone, it hasn't replaced any application, people, companies, right? Just like that, I think the GenAI will evolve, probably will call something else in about 5, 10 years as we add more compute power and more processing power and consumption power. But I think we as a human will stay relevant all along.
Great.
That's my opinion.
Talk to you more about that after the panel. Okay, so this went fast. We have about 5 minutes left, and I would love to just ask one more question. I'm going to start down on this end. We'll come this way. Sure. If you're looking into your crystal ball, this is where we get to have some fun. No wrong answers. You're looking in the crystal ball. You're looking out into the future. How do you see the industry sort of being transformed, or what do you get the most excited about when you're thinking about what's going to be possible?
I think, at least from my vantage point, we're at an inflection point, right? So there's going to be, the way we look at mobility is going to significantly change, but that's a little bit of a longer term horizon. You give it around 10 years, the way we look at mobility is most likely going to change. We're seeing all the ingredients for it to change. We've got everything in the car. I was at Move America conference as well previous to this. I think all the ingredients are there. Now, how do you actually then say, within the next 3 to 5 years, I think to Raj's point, it's going to be a really, how do you increase the productivity of the organization to the next level, where you're creating designs on the go. However, you still have to do the verification validation. You're looking at the A-Spice-V model. We talked at length about software-defined vehicles. So in the different components of the software that goes into the car, how can you actually accelerate that journey at a very rapid pace? How can you have immersive experience? So I visualize this in the next 3 to 5 years, that the industry will be operating at the next level with all innovation built in, with generative AI being more of a, for lack of a better term, business assistant to drive specific business outcomes for the role that they're talking about.
Angela?
Yeah. Gosh, the technology is moving so fast. Just keeping up with it for 6 months ahead, 8 months ahead, whatnot is incredible. So I think to your point, that experience, being able to, one, weave the technology into the work that we do day to day in R&D and manufacturing and everything, to harness that and really drive those new consumer experiences, and then also the possibilities with safety and everything. I've got a child that's learning how to drive right now, so I'm like, let's focus here. But no, I think it's just, I think the possibilities are endless. So.
I think you mentioned the Jetsons earlier.
And yes, the Jetsons. That's my thing.
Is that 10 years? I mean, I know it's going fast.
A few years for Jetsons.
Yeah.
Bring us home.
I think we should treat this as a business enabler function, right? That's what it is. What and how we can enable our business to become more effective, more efficient, more productive. My advice, Cinch's advice is take baby steps, right? If you're new to this area, understand, take baby steps. Look at some of those low-hanging fruits. Talk to your business partner. Communicate in their language that they can understand and convert those back to you. Business partners are busy doing what they are doing. They don't have time to bring in technology. That's a job of people like me and my team, right? So again, go slow, take baby steps, focus on the business outcomes and business value. Those are my
Great.
thoughts.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me up here today. I really appreciate your time. And just on a closing note, thanks for being here and joining us today. If you want to come see some of the cool toys that NTTDATA brought, we've got some VR headsets and some amazing edge prototypes and all that great stuff to take a look at. So come visit us at the booth. And thank you again for being here and joining us today.
Thank you.